لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. So we're looking at the past tense verb. We know that the past tense verb is our basic structure, right? That is that khalaqa, fa'ala, that's our basic thing. We know how to conjugate. So khalaqa, khalaqa, khalaqu, that's the third person. We did the you, and so 16 is just doing exactly the same thing, adding the they. We've already done it. So he just spread it out really, really far to make sure that you understand it very well. Okay, so let's bismillah, let's look on 16. Let's look at our examples. Okay, on 16 on which page is it? 49. So bismillah, let's go through our examples. Mikhala? Oh, Khalid, do you have a pen? No, yeah, there's none there. Can I steal that? Yeah. Okay, bismillah. So let's identify look at our words, look at the sentence, and identify our past tense verb. Bismillah, go ahead.
Oh, you guys are microphone. Yeah. Yeah, if you guys are gonna ask questions, you go ahead. I'll bring it to them.
Okay. This is the first sentence? Yeah. Didn't we do this last week? This is 15 or 16? We didn't do this one?
15. This is 16. This is 16. This is 16. We want to do 16 or 15?
Okay, no, 16, yeah, okay, fine. I thought we... So what? Anything at the end of it? Nothing. Is it followed by a word that is in the nominative? No. So therefore it means he, right? So there's nothing attached, and there's nothing there, so it means there's an implied huwa. So said he said. Good. Hal, which means? Means? Not quite. I could use it for the past. It's a bit loud. So it's a little bit. It's a little bit loud. Give on this.
Yes or no?
Hal means I am asking a question. Yes, no, so yeah. I am introducing a yes or no question. Hal anta farid? Na'am ana farid. Right? Yes or no question. So in English, how would you do it? You change the order and then you put a question mark. Right? I am farid. Are you farid? As opposed to you are farid. Right? Whereas hal, we don't do that in Arabic. You don't change the order. You're going to say hal farid anta. You say hal anta farid, you are farid. Hal anta farid, are you farid? Okay, you just bring in the question. Hal. Good. Alimtum. From alimtum. Good. Alimtum. Okay. So. Good. Fa'altum. But what is different? What is structurally different? They're almost exactly the same structure, but there's one small structural difference. So tum is the same as tum. Instead, so the root letters are obviously different. How is this different in terms of harakat? In terms of the harakat that's on it, one has a kasra, one has a fatha. So they're the same. That's called a past tense verb. It's called a form 1 verb. One has a kasra and one has a fatha. So whenever I memorize a verb, this is my vocab list. I'm going to say qala, yaqulu, qawlan. This means he said, he says, speech. That's how I memorize the verb. What is it in the past? What is it in the present? What is the verbal noun? We'll do the verbal noun later on, but I need to memorize that for form 1 because it's not intuitive. You couldn't work it out. So I have to memorize. قَالَ يَقُولُ قَوْلًا. He said, he says, it's this. Because if I know the root letters alone, I can't work it out. So is it alima or aluma or alama? I don't know.
What's the third one?
The verbal noun, speaking. So he said, so saying. Qawl is saying or a word. Okay? So I say, I know the root letters. Okay? So if I had these root letters and you said form 8, for example, as we'll look at later on, You don't need to tell me anything. I just know Ain, Lam, Mim, and I could work the rest out because we'll learn that later on. Form 8 will be predictable. But this is not Form 8, this is Form 1. So I don't know what it is. Is it Alama, or is it Alima, or is it Aluma? I don't know. Form, we're going to see, is a variation of the verb. We'll learn it later on, okay? But the point is, when you know a form, then it's predictable. You can say, I'm going to do this to it. It's easy. But if it's Form 1, which is a normal past tense verb, I need to know, is it fatha, dhamma, or kasra? I need to know that. So I need to know it's alima, ya'lamu. Okay, it has a fatha here and a kasra in the past. And then the verbal noun is ilman. Ilm. Otherwise, how do I know what it is? This was qawl, this is ilm. How did I know it was going to be like that? I don't know. Ya'lamu. Yeah, we'll see that in Unit 20 or something like that, or when it comes up. But what I have to do is I'm going to have to memorize. It was alima. So this was alima. This is fa'ala. How did I know that? You have to memorize it. You just have to memorize fa'ala. Fa'ala has a fatha in the middle. Alima has a kasra in the middle. Why? That's why. Just how it is. Okay? So I just wanted to point that difference out. In the past tense, you could have 3 variables. You could have a fatha, dhamma, kasra in that verb. I need to know which one it is. Because if I have no way to know it without memorizing it. Here, I could, this word here, if I gave you a verb, for example, this, and I say this is a past tense verb. So I know there's a fatha here and I know there's a fatha here. I don't know how to pronounce the middle of the word. Is it katuba or kataba or katiba? I don't know unless you tell me. So if you tell me it's a past tense verb, I know there's a fatha here, I know there's a fatha there. But I don't know anything else. So you need to tell me, what is it?
That is the template.
That's a template. That's going to be, so you say, by the way, it's kataba. So, okay, thank you. If you didn't tell me, I have no way to know it.
Kataba and katiba are different.
Katiba doesn't exist.
Katuba.
Yeah, katuba I don't think exists either. Sometimes they do exist. Sometimes there's 2 different words that do exist. Usually that's not the case, right? Like faqiha means to understand. Faquha means to become a faqih. Right? Well, it's slightly different. Or balagha, to reach, balugha, to be eloquent. Right? But usually it's one thing and I need to memorize it. So I'm going to say, what is the past tense verb? What is it in the past? What is it in the present? What is the verbal noun? Right? That's going to be your basic vocab. Just like when you're looking at a noun, I want to know, here's my noun. Is it masculine or feminine? Usually I'll know. And does it have a sound plural or a broken plural? If it has a broken plural, tell me what it is because I won't be able to work it out. Right? If it has a sound plural, there's a system. Muslim, Muslimun, easy. But if it has a broken plural, I don't know what it is. So you're going to say alim, alimun, no, ulama. How did I know that? I got to memorize it. So whenever you have a verb in your vocab, that's the entry, right? Like you're putting in your phone number, person, first name, last name, date of birth, da-da. For a verb, past, present, verbal noun, right? Everything else for forms 2 and up, you can work that out by yourself. You don't need to memorize it.
There is only a set of
There's a set.
templates.
Kataba yaktubu kitabatan wa kitaban. That's it.
There is a set of templates of 16 or 17. You take the word.
Yeah. So those other forms, you don't have to memorize them because there's a system, and then you just apply that system. Like I'll give you an example. Like if I say, for example, fa'alima. If I did this, and like I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, this is ain lam mim, and it's form 2. You don't have to tell me anything. I can work it all out. I can say allama, yu'allimu, ta'lim, mu'allim, mu'allam. I can work everything out. Allama, yu'allim, mu'allim. I can work everything out just with this predictable. But the normal verb, which is what we call form 1, is not predictable. You have to memorize it. Okay? Go ahead.
So like the root word for this is alim. How do you say that's for he knew? How do you say he knew?
Ya'lamu. That's present tense. But how do I know what it is? How did I know that it was ya'lamu and not ya'lumu or ya'limu? I had to memorize it. So for me, I'll stop. I'll be like, I've heard it so many times, right? It's like this. Like you say, sheep. What's the plural of sheep? Sheep. How did you know that? How did you know the plural of sheep was sheep? Either you memorized it at school, or you've heard it 1,000 times. That you don't say sheeps, right? Okay, the ox, what's the plural of oxen? Huh? So either you memorized that when you were 10 or 12 or 15 in an English test in India, or you've heard that you don't say oxes, you say oxen. Otherwise, how would you know that? Okay, what about children? Where did the R come from? Child, there's no R in child. So why is it children? I don't know, that's how you say it. How did you memorize it? I memorized it, that's it, children. Children is a plural of child. How did you know? Memorize it. There was no system that you applied.
So the template 1 does not follow.
Yeah, but template 2 and above is fixed.
So what is the rule for
Template 1, there's no rule. You have to memorize it. You have to.
How many words are there?
How many variables? You have 6. You have, in principle, 9 variables. Because you, in the past, you could have fatha, dhamma, or kasra. Like if I didn't know what it was, it could either be katuba, or katiba, or kataba. And then in the present, it could be yaktubu, or yaktabu, or yaktibu. The rest won't change. I know there's a fatha here, I know there's a fatha here. I know there's a ya here and a sukoon here. I know there's a dhamma there. But in principle, I have 9 possibilities, because 3 times 3. In reality, only 6 of them actually exist, and only 5 of them are most frequently used. But you still have a variable possibility of 5 different things. It could be katuba yaktubu, kataba yaktubu, kataba yaktibu, kataba yaktabu, katiba yaktabu, or katuba yaktubu. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it is. But you have to memorize every single time. This is the verb. Fahima yafhamu. That's how it is. Okay?
So how many templates are there?
For Form 1, there's only one. So for Form 1, there is 6 possibilities. So 3 variable. So there's 3 variables here, and 3 variables here. 3 by 3 is 9. That's in principle, but only 6 of them actually exist. So if you have a dhamma in the past, you always have a dhamma in the present. So that eliminates 2.
You're saying past and present.
Yes, yes, you have to put them together.
And
Right.
that 6 forms is because of the haraka and the second letter. And ya is always there.
So this fatha here is fixed. That fatha there is fixed. This is fixed. That's fixed. But it's just this middle letter. And that middle letter you've got in the past 3 variables. So now, right now, we're not looking at present tense right yet. But right now, I'm looking at a word, and it says hal alimtum. Okay, in your head now, alima kasra. I need to know that it has a kasra, and I need to know he means to know. That's the verb to know, or he knew. So I have to memorize not just ayn lam mim to do with knowledge, but I need to memorize ayn lam mim with a kasra in the middle specifically.
So how does the middle one change the whole thing again?
It doesn't. So it's not something you can change, but it is something fixed, and it's not predictable. So you have to memorize it.
So like this one, right? Kataba, right?
Yeah. So this is. So it just turns out that it's actually kataba and not katiba or yaktubu, right?
Oh, okay.
Right. And so in Arabic you say alimtum, but if I didn't put anything here, how would you know how to pronounce it?
So it can't be katiba or kat.
No.
Okay.
So it's not like you can change it. So this is. But how did I know there was a kasra there? You heard me say it. What if nobody ever said it? And you just looked at the Arabic letter with no harakat, how would you know it? You wouldn't. You'd be stuck. You'd be like, I don't know how to say it. Okay? And that's why so this is very important now when we're talking to Christians. Who speaks Hebrew today? Jews, do they actually speak Hebrew? They speak modern Hebrew. We speak, on the news at least, your language and the Quran's language is the same language. On the news at least. Okay, in the street, fine, you go to Egypt, like, what? That sounds pretty different. But at least in a formal setting, when you're going to watch Tom and Jerry in Arabic, it's either going to be in Egyptian or it's going to be in Fusha, in classical Arabic. So it's the same Tom and Jerry that they're going to use is the same language as the Quran. Right? It's pretty cool, quite a cool thing to do. Anyway, the point is, imagine if you're trying to understand a text written 3,000 years ago, like the Old Testament, and nobody speaks that language. and nobody has fatha dhamma kasra, and nobody can make the connections, and nobody has written all these dictionaries that we have. So a Bible, for you to be a Bible student, scholar, you have to know Arabic. You cannot understand the Bible without Arabic. I.e., if Islam didn't exist, you couldn't know the Bible. Because Islam came along, the Arab civilization became a civilization. They recorded the Arabic inside out, back to front, all these things. And then suddenly you have words in Arabic. So it's like a cousin language of Hebrew. It's almost the same, right? So many words are the same. And so for you to read the Bible today and understand exactly what's going on, what do? You study Arabic. Every single Bible studies person, if you're a specialist, like a professor in Bible studies, you're going to have to know Arabic. You can't get away with that Arabic because they're going to say, what does this word mean? They're like, oh, we don't really know what it means because your language has not been preserved. You're going to have to go back to Arabic. Somebody who's going to do that, who's going to say, how do you read the Bible, right? The Bible is written in Greek, right? The New Testament's written in Greek, right? So they didn't write in the language of Sayyidina Isa. So Sayyidina Isa, he spoke Aramaic, right? Which is basically, again, just like Arabic, very, very similar. So now if I want to say, how did Sayyidina Isa speak, right? You're gonna need Arabic for that, because it's like trying to understand what's going on, right? So this is so one of the key things in our language has been preserved through Arabic. Through the most important thing that was ever documented before even Hadith was Arabic language, because if there's no Arabic language, there's no deen. There's no deen, right? If you miss a Hadith, how many Hadiths are there? Infinite Hadiths. If you miss one Hadith, let's say you never knew innamal a'malu binniyat, actions are only by intentions. It's in the Quran anyway. The idea is in the Quran anyway. We already know that you're going to judge based on intentions. It's in the Quran anyway. It doesn't matter what you do, it matters why you do what you do, right? But without Arabic language, oof. I know that niyyah is from the word nawa, it's a seed. Oh yeah, I planted a seed, right? I got into the car and I died in a car accident. Yeah, but what seed did you plant? I was going to work. Why are you going to work? To pay off my debts, so that I could stand before Allah. I fulfilled my wafa. Like, oh, even if I never did it, it doesn't matter. That was your intention, right? Or why did you say sorry to your wife? I said sorry to my wife to be forgiven by showing good akhlaq, and that my kids should learn good akhlaq, and that my kids should be Muslims, and my grandchildren should be Muslim, and my great-grandchildren should be Muslim. I want 20,000 generations. You get the ajr for all of that. Even if you died on the way back home and you never said sorry to her. Subhanallah, right?
Prophets were speaking Arabic only, right?
Or they're speaking Arabic, yeah. What I'm trying to say is, if you don't know, you can't hear somebody say kataba or katuba or katiba, you don't know what's going on at all. You don't know what it means. There's a story, what is it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in which surah, I can't remember now. وَلَا تَحِينَ مَنَاسِ, I can't remember which surah it is. It's a particular phrase which is not common in Arabic. It means la tahina manas, not the time of manas. Like, what does that even mean? So there was a scholar and he was traveling through the desert. They used to go to the desert because these are the people who spoke the real language. He's traveling through the desert and he's traveling to go to another city to ask about this word. What does this really mean? And he finds a little kid in the desert. And this little kid has grabbed hold of a lizard. And the lizard can't get away now. So the kid says, وَلَا تَحِينَ مَنَاسِ, can't get away now. Right? And that's what it means. It means, when the kafir does this, the believer does this, you do this, you do this, you do kill everybody, whatever you do, and then judgment day comes. وَلَا تَحِينَ مَنَاسِ. That was all fun. Whatever you did in the dunya, the lies, the cheating, whatever you did, but now you can't get away. Right? So this is what we have in Arabic, is very, very detailed, extremely detailed recording of every single word. But if you didn't have it, there would be no deen. Just like, and that's what we say about Christianity. It wasn't even written in in Sayyidina Isa's language to begin with. That's not the language he was ever speaking. They say, oh, it doesn't matter, the spirit. Okay. You can't even begin to understand what he said. Right? Where the Bible study the same thing. You can't. Nobody speaks like they spoke at the time of Sayyidina Musa. They call it biblical Hebrew. For us, we don't call it Quranic Arabic. We call it Quranic Arabic as marketing, that's all. Right? Just to get people to do the class. But otherwise, there's no such thing as Quranic Arabic. It's Arabic because Arabic has been preserved. And if Arabic had not been preserved, the deen would have gone. Whereas biblical Hebrew, nobody speaks Hebrew, right? Nobody speaks Hebrew. There's no joke. For example, you come along and say, oh yeah, Sayyidina Musa said this and this is a joke. It's a phrase they use in Hebrew. That doesn't exist. Whereas that's in Arabic. We know the phrases, we know the words, we know these things. Okay, so anyway, what I was trying to say is, for a past tense verb, you need to know the middle letter. Is it kataba, katuba, or katiba? Write it down. This is the word, right? And over time, the more you read, you get familiar with it. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Oh yes, it's amila. Right, so is it amiltum or amaltum or amultum? I don't know. Oh, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. You've memorized that word. So you memorized it, so now you know, right? But if you haven't memorized it or you can't hear it, then you're just lost. Okay, Bismillah. Next.
What to memorize is part of the book.
Sorry?
What to memorize.
Sorry, what was the question?
What to memorize.
What to memorize? It doesn't mention. But so I'm telling you that basically you should memorize the keywords that on these lists here. Any keyword that you don't know, that's what you should make in your that's what you should either create your own what's it called, app. You know, we all tech people here create your own app. I'm sure that app exists, or put it in, or at least have your own list, right? And again, the more Arabic you read, the less you're gonna have to do.
So alama is one type of
So
template. Fa'ala is one type.
yeah, so alima with a kasra, that is one template. But it's a similar template, but the only difference is one has kasra and the other has fatha.
So the template, I understood the past tense, present tense, where you add a ya.
Mm-hmm. So for example, I know if you give me a verb that has 3 letters, okay, if you tell me it has a kasra in the past, then there's a 90% chance it's going to have a fatha in the present. There's going to be ya, something, 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 and this has a fatha on it. So I know that. It's not always the case, and it's rare that it has a kasra. So I know if you told me any verb that I don't even know, and it says in the past it's like this fa'ila with a kasra, I'll say it's probably a fatha in the present, right? And there'll be like
It's a group.
that's a normal group that's going to exist. Of those 6 possibilities, that's a common group to see.
So what are the 6 for past?
So you've got past and present. So in past and present, the 6 groups, meaning the variation, the combinations of fatha and kasra. You can have a kasra in the past and a kasra in the present. That's rare. Okay, that exists, but it's rare. Then you've got a fatha in the past and a fatha in the present, like fa'ala yaf'alu. That's rare, but it does exist. You've got fatha in the past and dhamma in the present, which is very common, like kataba yaktubu. You've got fatha in the past and kasra in the present, which is also common, right? And then you've got dhamma in the past, which always results in dhamma in the present. Okay? But you don't have to memorize all of those right now. What you have to memorize right now is it is alima, and it's not just this. You can't just say ayn lam mim. It's what is it specifically? It is alima. He knew. Okay? Make sense? That's what's expected to do now. Okay, Bismillah. Let's look at the next line, line 3. Bismillah, go ahead.
So I kind of getting it, but there you have the template, right, where you said the third letter will be fatha dhamma based on what is the past. This is past and present.
Yeah, there's no other thing in Arabic. So there's basically you can say there's also a command. So you can say he does, he did, and do. That's it in Arabic. There's nothing else.
So past, present,
and command with the imperative. There's nothing else. So for example, so in English, for example, you could have 2 different pasts, right? I have done and I did. I learnt and I have learnt, right? In it, that doesn't exist in Arabic.
For example, help, he helped.
Yeah, he helped, he helps, and help. That's it.
Help, he helps, future.
Present or future. So in English, you're gonna have to have 2, right? He helps and he will help. That doesn't exist. There's no future.
What is the command here for
Help. So you say if'al. We're gonna see it maybe in unit 25 or something like that. If'al.
help?
I would say that's a sa'id, but that's a different verb. But for the form verb, I'd say, for example, kataba yaktubu uktub, and alima ya'lamu i'lam. Right, and so we'll learn it. I don't know which unit in.
So go help. That's the command.
It is help. Yeah, i'lam or sa'id. Sa'id means help, but that's difficult because you chose the verb help, which is not even a form 1 verb, it's a form 3 verb, so that makes it more complex. Yeah, for example. But if I say, for example, kataba, I would say kataba, he wrote. Yaktubu, he writes. And that's all I need to know. I don't even have to memorize the command because the command is based on the present tense. So because it's yaktubu, it's going to be uktub. And because it's ya'lamu, it's going to be i'lam. So you don't even have to memorize it.
From present
You can infer everything. Yeah.
Say kitab fills in.
You have written, yeah. You wrote or you have written?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Bismillah. Good. Why Yusufa? Why is there a fatha even though there's a ba before it? So it should say be Yusufin, right? Be Baitin, right? So we say any non-Arabic name or any feminine name, right, will not have a kasra ever and will not take a tanween. So that if you have a kasra, it goes into a fatha. So I want to say be Yusufin, I can't say Yusufin, I have to say Yusufan. Can't say Yusufan either, I have to say Yusufa. Yusufa, right? And most of the Prophet's names are all non-Arabic names.
Which names are Arabic?
Salih, Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Arabic, Salih. But that's all I recall. There's another one, I think. Ismail is not. Ibrahim is not. So what we'll find then is you'll find like 3 different ways of saying Ibrahim. You can say Ibrahim, Ibrahim, and Abraham. So like, well, why are there 3 different ways? Because it's not Arabic.
But in the Quran,
does it exist? I'm not sure. But like Jibra'il, man kana aduwwan li Jibra'ila, wa Jibrila, wa Jibra'il. There's 3 different ways of saying it.
in the Quran.
In the Quran. Yeah. So Mikael, Mikael, and Mikael. Right? And because these are not Arabic names. These words, il means God. Right? You see the word ilah, right? Like ilah, God, right? That's il in Hebrew. Il means God. So Jibreel, something of God. Ismail, something of God, or God did. So Ismail means Sami Allahu. Allah heard the prayer. Yisma, from Yisma, right? You know, like in Ammiya, they say that you say that, like Yiktib. You say that? No, you wouldn't. You don't say it. But they'll often say they'll change it. So but anyway, it's a similar thing, but it's from the word il. Il means God in Hebrew. It'll be Yusufin. So you can have a tanween, like be Muhammadin. Allahumma salli. So you say, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Ibrahim. Why Ibrahima? Oh, because it's not Arabic. It's not Arabic name. You can say Muhammadun, Muhammadin, but Muhammadun, Muhammadan, Muhammadin. It has a tanween and it has a kasra. Whereas Ibrahimu, Ibrahima, Ibrahima, no tanween ever. You can never have a tanween, and it can't ever have a kasra. Not right? Be San Francisco, right? San Francisco. Mecca is a feminine name. So Makkata, Zurtu Makkata, Ana fi Makkata. Not
feminine names also.
Feminine names. Bari. So any city names are going to be feminine. A girl's name. Aisha tu, not Aisha tun. Right? Marartu bi Aisha ta, not Ma'ashatin. Okay. And then we'll see that later on, don't worry. Okay. Bi Yusuf wa akhihi, and his brother. Okay, bismillah. Next line. قد كفرتم بين بعد إيمانكم. Right? You have كفرتم. You have covered over the truth. You have rejected the truth. You have denied. You have become a kafir بعد إيمانكم, after believing. Right? Put your hand up if you're guaranteed paradise. Put your hand up if you know you're going to die on Iman. Okay, so then if we know that's the case, what is our goal? Is to die on Iman. That's the number one thing. How do you guarantee you die on Iman? You make sure you do the fard. You don't do israr ala ma'asi. You don't persist in the haram, and you make sure you do the fard. How do you guarantee? How do you protect the fard? By the sunnah. So the moment you intentionally leave the sunnah, like I can't be bothered, Like, I'm not going to do it. It's not because I'm tired. It's not because I have something else to do. I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. Like, here's a swag. I don't need to. It's sunnah. I'm not going to do it. The minute that you intentionally say, I'm not going to do the sunnah, you're saying, I'm willing to risk my akhirah. That's what you're saying. Qad means you have. Okay? Just like your wife says, you know, I'm not really happy with you talking to that lady. Did I ask you? Like, wow. That hurt. Right.
Well, what are we checking in this?
Look at the kafartum. Yeah. So you say something, so kafartum, which is a past tense verb, right?
And there's imani.
Imanikum is not a past tense verb.
So we are checking this template.
Kafartum. Yes. Good. Yes. No, imanikum is your belief. You have, after you having had believed, it's a noun. That's a noun.
If you said it will be first letter and third letter will be fatha, right? But here it is kafar.
Kafartum, that's because you've added a pronoun. So it is kafara like kataba, and the fatha's in the middle. But when you add a pronoun, it becomes kafartum, like katabtum.
Cannot be kafaratum.
No, kafartum, right? So what I'm talking about is, kufr is a very real thing. And it's whenever we intentionally turn away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning I know it's the right thing to do, meaning the fard, meaning the sunnah, meaning the optimal, but I'm just not going to do it. What we're saying to Allah is, try me. That's what we're saying to Allah. On different levels, right? On different levels. So you intentionally say, I'm not going to do what is best. Just like your wife is like, could you please do this? Like, do I have to? And she's like, no, but it would be nice if you did it. You're like, okay, I'm not going to do it then. It's like, you've made a statement. You have made a statement. Like could you get me a coffee? Do I have to? It's like, she says, no, you don't have to make me a coffee, but it would be nice if you got me a coffee. Okay, you're going to file for a divorce if I don't get you a coffee? She's like, no, okay, I'm not going to do it then. You've made a statement about your marriage, right? Similarly, when you actively, every single day, every single moment of our life, there's two options. What Allah loves and what Allah doesn't love. Halal and haram, I'm not talking about it. Is this the best or not the best? So whenever you say, I am willing to not do the best thing, but tu'thiruna al-hayat ad-dunya, you're preferring the dunya to Allah. Right? You could do the sunnah or not do the sunnah. It's not haram, you don't have to do the sunnah, but you've said, Allah, I've turned away from you. At that moment, you're saying, I'm willing to risk my fard. And if you're saying, I'm willing to miss my fard, you're saying, I'm willing to miss my iman. So that's how it works. It's very, very simple. Nobody wakes up in the morning like, yeah, I'm a kafir. But what happens is, the sunnahs disappear bit by bit, small things. They used to do certain things. As my dad said, Fareed, you used to have more focus in prayer. Hey, but I prayed, what's your problem? Yeah, but you used to have more focus. You used to have more focus. What happened? You used to have more focus. And then, khalas, you're praying, alhamdulillah, you prayed your sunnahs most of the time, half of the time, 30% of the time, 10% of the time. You're not praying the sunnahs, it's not obligatory anyway. Right? As somebody told me, Miskin, he says, if you pray the sunnahs all the time, it's like making them wajib. It's like, what are you talking about? Some crazy idea. Anyway, he stops praying the sunnahs. You don't have to pray the sunnahs, right? You grew up, you pray the sunnahs and then realize you don't have to pray sunnahs anyway. So like, why did I even do it? So now you're risking the fard, right? Like somebody with no skin. The bacteria can get in now. And not having skin doesn't mean you die. But not having skin means you can't retain the liquids and you're risking, right? Bacteria. Now you get bacteria. What's next? The fard is now challenged. So now we're taking off my hijab. We're not praying. I'm mixing. I'm doing all sorts of haram things. Now I'm saying, oh Allah, try me. I dare you, Allah, to take my iman away from me. And that's what Allah does.
Is it like the same thing last week? Like you go to the graph to the
Exactly. So where are you safe? When you're dead scared. When you're like, where's my siwak? Right? So someone's like, how's you and your wife? Well, do you spend time together? Yeah, I mean, no. Like, there's actually no time for us. Okay, you know already that there's a problem. Like, there isn't a you and her or you and him. There's no unit because it's always the kids or because it's work or because of this. Because that's like, okay, you already know things are like this, right? My sheikh, one of my greatest shuyukh, Homer Simpson, he once come home. You know Homer Simpson, right? From The Simpsons? He's one of my great shuyukh. Right? I indirectly received knowledge from him. So he comes home one day. From The Simpsons? Yeah, right? Bart Simpson is not one of my teachers, right? But Homer Simpson, one of my shuyukh. He comes home one day and Marge has put, what's it called? Has put some sausages to defrost in the sink. And so what happens is like, oh my God, this is the end of the marriage. Because like she's not even home when I come home. And she didn't even cook anything. And she didn't even put something to put in the microwave. She just put some sausages to defrost in the sink. Like that's not what's going on, right? So because the joke about Homer Simpson is actually very intelligent, right? He's not so dumb as you think, right? He's actually intelligent. And so he intuits there's a problem. So the same thing in our lives, this is how the same believer works, is where is the end of my iman? I missed last Jummah because of this, and then what the Prophet say, you missed one Jummah, and then another, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala covers over your heart. And then it's harder, like it's so hard to pick yourself up again. Why is it so hard? Because you've undone all these things, right? Look at Muslim nations. That's how it is. Look at Saudi Arabia right now. Like you go there in those days when they were telling you pray, what would they used to do? Close a shop and play on their phone until the guy says pray. It's like, when I was telling you to pray, you didn't pray. What's going to happen now? Okay, now when I bring a woman on the stage, you're going to come. And it doesn't matter how much it costs. And when you say, hey, what about LGBTQ plus? You're like, yes, please. When I say this, and then I say, hey, what about the Dajjal? Yeah. And that's what Dajjal will come to Medina, and it will cause an earthquake, and the fake Muslims will come out of Medina. Even if you're in Medina, say, I'll just stay in Medina because the Dajjal can't reach me. Yeah, but he'll pull you out. Don't worry. Because what did you do? Bit by bit, you sold your deen. So we should be scared, not when your kid is asking, hey, should I believe or not? When you say, when was the last time you picked a mushaf? When was the last time you prayed your sunnahs? When was the last time you cried to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Say, I don't remember the last time I cried. Okay, that's a problem, right? That's a problem. That means your heart's dead. So we shouldn't be scared at the end, right? It's like somebody said, somebody was talking about the state of America, and they said, a Russian was saying, the state of America says, the state of America now is like Russia just at the end of the USSR. We're looking at you guys like the end of the Soviet Union. And you're thinking you guys are fine. We're looking from the outside, you guys are like this. Right? So this is how the believer has to be, is where am I? Is it going like this? And what is it? Astaghfirullah, go up. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, like this. Kullu ibn Adam khata' khayra khata'in at-tawwabun. Every son of Adam makes a mistake. Why did I miss the sunnah today? Why did I do that haram? Why did I go against my own standards? Why did I do that? What? Make tawbah, change, as opposed to, right? You shouldn't be worried when the plane crashes. You should be worried when the plane is losing altitude. Because that shouldn't be happening, right? So that's the believer. The believer, you lose altitude, astaghfirullah, like this, astaghfirullah. But not when it starts crashing like that. Well, I still have my iman. Because what's going to happen? The siwak will disappear. The Quran disappears from your life. The sunnahs, and then what happens? You come out of the grave and you're in hellfire forever. And there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing. What are you going to do when you have no iman? So don't wake up at the end. You wake up at the beginning. Right? What are you going to do when the prayer isn't happening? What are you going to do when whatever's going to happen? Right? So may Allah protect us all. And so, قَدْ كَفَرْتُمْ بَعْدِ إِيمَانِكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about it in the Quran. You left the deen. Where's Spain today? Goodbye. Doesn't exist. Right? Soon you'll be like, oh, Saudi Arabia, that used to be a Muslim country. Right? Best nightclubs in the world are in like Lebanon or something, you know? That's what Imam al-Awza'i, you say Lebanon, Imam al-Awza'i, right? Used to talk about what was Lebanon famous for, was for mujahideen. You go there because that's next to Turkey, and Turkey was where the Muslim Christians were. You're going to go on jihad. So people would leave and go to that area and go, maybe I'm going to go to sea and die as a shaheed, or that's what you go to those areas to do jihad. Now it's like, oh, what's in Lebanon? You know? May Allah protect us all. Okay, so iman is a real thing. Hellfire is a real thing. Kufr is a real thing. How do you protect your kufr? Make sure you're not persisting in the haram. There's something at the haram in your life, like that's just me. A believer cannot be, that's just me. You say, yeah, I make mistakes, but I'm never going to do it again. And then tomorrow I make that mistake, but I'm never going to do it again. As opposed to, that's just me. I just don't pray when I have a meeting. I just don't wear hijab at work. That's just me. You can't do that. You can't have it, that's just me. Because you're saying, oh Allah, I dare you to take my iman. And what are you going to do if Allah takes your iman away? You can't do anything. Oh, I'll make tawbah. You won't want to make tawbah because you won't have iman to make tawbah. Like, if you don't care anymore, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. So it's very, very scary. We should be scared. And I'm scared because I don't have a miswak in my pocket. Right? Because that's that. Okay? So we'll see next week. Maybe you're like, oh yeah, it's be a sunnah, right? And then next week be like, oh, Brother Khalid, you could, do better da'wah if we had a rabbi come, and do, it's da'wah, right? Ta'alu ila kalimatin sawa, come to a unit. And he's like, okay. And then where's the, Brother Khalid, where's the LGBT community here? I was like, okay, it sounds good, but it's all off. And then he's doing this and doing this and doing this and doing this and doing this, and then the guy disappears and it happens. It happens. And the easiest thing to do is say, is say all religions are equal. All good. Anybody who's good is fine. Right? People say that. I think anybody who's good is all right. Or I think whatever you believe in will happen. If you're a Muslim, you believe you go to hell. If you do this, then you will. And if you believe you won't come out of the grave, then you won't. People have these ideas, right? May Allah protect us. So whenever we start missing the sunnah, that's when we have to be scared. May Allah protect us.
When you said about mishpah, it's sunnah and everything, but it doesn't stick in our Indian mentality. Like we so much used to it. Like I tried a couple of times.
It's funny. I used to work with a chef who was a guitarist. Okay, he's like a hippie guy, not Muslim. Okay, he went to India, and he comes back from India, and he's always got this siwak in his mouth, and he says, yeah, I use it all the time. I said he picked it up in India, right? So that's a problem, right? It's like saying, for example, so what you're saying right now is like saying it's let's say, for example, it's normal. Let's say you meet people whose kids don't wash their teeth. You're like you're gonna have teeth problems. Yeah, you're gonna have major problems. Like, you can expect it. So the same thing. May Allah forgive us all. So we should all make tawbah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I love this. Can you please do it? And you're like, no. It's a problem. It's a statement.
It's not a no.
But it's just.
It's not a yes. So the reason is you're not used to it. It's not.
Yeah, but.
I know. They tried and.
Yeah.
They had to carry that.
Yeah, but so there's a problem, right?
I think it's like a matter of finding the technique.
Yeah.
How to use it. Because I also tried using it, and I think I'm doing it too hard. My teeth started hurting a lot.
Yeah, but the point is, it's a problem. I'm just saying that whole mentality. I am happy to do something that is not my standard, right? Does Jeff Bezos does all that? No. He said, this is my standard. This is what I'm going to do. Any person who has what's it called? Muhammad Ali. This is how I'm going to train, and I'm not going to stay. That's how you get the best. But when you start to say it's okay, that's when you get silver, and that's when you get bronze, and that's when you don't even make it, and that's when you become like the mediocre Muslim whose iman is at risk. And when the Dajjal comes, whoops, right? Drug addicts, why do they die? They don't die because of overdose. They die because of diseases, because they don't look after their health. Health is not a priority for them. They start sharing needles. They get all these different things. They don't die because of the drugs. The drugs give them a lifestyle, which means I don't care about my health. And so that's the problem with our iman. We live a lifestyle where iman is not a big deal for us. Because at the end of the day, worst comes to worst, you go to hell for a bit. Okay, what if you leave the deen? You're not going to come out. Right? You say, khalas, I have a girlfriend, I drink, but khalas, I love the Prophet. I know the Prophet said, al-mar'u ma'a man ahab, right? You'll be with whoever you love. Yeah, if you die in iman. But what if you don't die in iman? What are you going to do? So you're in hellfire for 50,000 years, okay, eventually you'll come out. And then what happens is you don't come out. And then the doors have closed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring death in the form of a ram and slaughter it. Khalas, there's no more death. And there's no coming out. And you're like, subhanAllah, where did it all start? I went home, the mushaf was open, and I closed it. Like, you could have done one page. You didn't do one page. And then you never did it again. And then you never did sunnahs again. And then you never went to the masjid again. And then where did it all start? Just like at the end of a marriage. Oh yeah, this happened. And then this happened. And then it happened. And then that happened. And then that. And it's like, wow. It's like you can't even repair it anymore. Right? What happened with your child? Well, he did this and then this. Like, I don't even know what's happening in his life. Right? Where did it all happen? You didn't play ball with him when he was 5. It's like, I preferred work over my relationship with my kids. And then this happened. And now when I talk to him about deen, he's like, where were you 15 years ago? Right? All these little things, right? So that's the clever person. Where are things going? Right? As opposed to where are things, right? So our number one thing, if the doors of hell close, I don't want it to be on me. How can I go back and guarantee that doesn't happen? Because that is my number one thing, because that's eternity, right? May Allah forgive us all. And, it's called a rude awakening, right? A painful, it hurts, right? It's not a nice thing to think about, but it's very important.
I never understood it until now. Like the sunnah is like a ship. If you leave it, you're not safe. If you stay on it, you're safe.
Yeah, so jumping off the ship doesn't mean you die, right? But how long can you swim for? You know what I mean? Like, how long can you tread? Like, oh, I'm a marine, I can tread water for 16 hours. When the 17th hour comes, how long you can stay there? You can't, right? So you always have to be careful. When there's a risk on anything, if you know what you're risking, that defines everything. Like, that defines everything, right? You logged onto your bank account. Do you log out, or do you just close the browser? You log out, because somebody might hack your account. If you know what's going on, somebody might, it's like, well, it doesn't have to happen, does it? But somebody might do that, and somebody might do this, and then somebody might do that. That's how we work, what could happen. So when we talk about your akhirah forever and ever and ever and ever, it's like, it should be a healthy, disturbing thought, like, I need to guard myself. May Allah protect us, right? Okay.
Which people it is referring to? You have disbelieved after you attend?
I don't know. May Allah forgive me that I don't know the answer. Okay, Bismillah. Mm-hmm. أفرأيتم الماء أفرأيتم. So means question, fa means so, رأيتم. رأيتم, that's a past tense verb, رأيتم. أفرأيتم الماء الذي تشربون. Have you considered, have you thought about, have you looked at the water that you drink? So anything can it hook it just off the top of your head, something very, very significant about water that enables us to live on planet Earth right now? Something unique about water? Rain? There's a voice coming from my head somewhere. What about ice? When you put ice in your drink, where does it go, up or down? Okay, somebody else besides me, Carl. When you put ice in your glass of water, does it go up or down?
Down.
It goes down because the ice is more dense than water, correct?
Wait, no, it goes, it floats.
An ice cube, it floats because it
Yeah.
is less dense than.
No water.
Is that normal? If you had molten iron is a chunk of iron, of a solid iron. Is it more dense or less dense than molten iron? Right, the liquid is less dense than the solid, correct? So therefore, if you had a piece of metal, it would go down and eventually melt and go up, right? So of the unique qualities of water is because it makes a hexagon. The ice is in a hexagon. Of the unique, very important things about water is that a solid is less dense than the liquid. If that were not the case, where would the ice caps go? Down. And where would we be? Swimming. We would not be able to live on planet Earth. Right? So Allah SWT says, think about water. Super important. Right? Super unbelievably important thing. Right? Water. Allah, that's one thing. Water. Earth. Right? What's that film? Waterworld? You know that film, Waterworld? Right? Where they're selling Earth. It's like, what's the big deal with Earth? What do you mean? They're selling it because they live in a world where there's water, and they sell it, right? What is it like to see these things, right? SubhanAllah, Earth, fertile Earth is a huge thing. What are you going to do if you don't have fertile Earth? What are you going to do if you don't have water? What are you going to do if you don't have oxygen? What if you don't have clean air? What are you going to do if you don't have basic things, right? I don't advise people to watch TV, but sometimes you learn from your mistakes, right? Waterworld, it's like, that's an amazing sign. Like people like fighting over Earth. They're selling Earth. Right? Soon we're going to be selling seeds, right? Because you only have seedless grapes. What if all your seeds are seedless? Seedless melons, seedless grapes. Then what are you going to put in the ground? Right? So huge, these are the amazing things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about a lot of these very small things, so they're so important to the basic functioning of life. Right? Bismillah. So go ahead. Anybody else? Yeah. الذي تشربون, that's a present tense verb. تشربون, تشربون, that you drink. Bismillah. رأيت. So رأيت, past tense verb. رأيت. Have you seen he who kafara, that denies, covers over the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Any past tense verbs there? Jaza means, that's ja'a. Ja'a means he came. Good. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks a rhetorical question. Is the recompense, the reward for excelling and doing something good for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anything but ihsan? No. Right? So this is the thiqah, the trust in Allah that we have to have when we leave the haram. If I leave the haram and I do what is right, how will it work out? Right? Will it work out? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks a question. Okay, if you do something good for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do you think anything's going to happen other than good for you? And who's going to be more generous, you or Allah? Who's more appreciative, you or Allah? So you do what is right. You prayed in a very awkward situation. You said no to something that was very tempting. You did what is right. Who's more appreciative, you or Allah? Is Allah going to forget? Is Allah not going to give you so much more? So no, Allah's going to give you. It's worth it. So the shaitan says it's not worth it, because I would lose out. If I do what is right, people don't appreciate it. Let's say, for example, if I'm nice to my spouse, she doesn't appreciate it. So what's the point? He doesn't appreciate it. What's the point? Who are you doing it for? Your spouse? You're doing it for Allah. Do it for Allah, and it's going to be worth it. But do it for him, it's not worth it. He doesn't remember. He doesn't recognize. She doesn't recognize it. But Allah does. Right? So it's not worth it. We tell ourselves it's not worth it. Last one says no. If you do something good, do you think you're going to get anything other than good? Right? You think it's going to work out? It's like, oh, it's not worth it. Right? Everybody does it. Right? That's the logic. But everybody does haram like this. This kind of thing, everybody does it. Not a big deal. Yeah, but if you left it, so yeah, but if I left it, it just looks weird, looks strange. No, but if you left that haram that everybody's doing, do you think Allah's not going to notice you? You don't stand out. Do you think it's not going to be worth it? Of course it's going to be worth it. So you did something good for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah's going to open up 1,000,000 doors for you. Right? فهل وجدتم ما وعد ربكم حقا, right? Right? So this is the Prophet ﷺ speaking to the people in the grave and telling the people, do you understand now? You just died fighting against us. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised the truth. Right? And He promised that if you die fighting us, you're going to be in hell. Can you see that now? You're going to be in a grave and the angels are tormenting you? So yes. Right? So هل وجدتم, have you found what Allah has promised you to be true? Yes, I have. وجدتم. وجدتم. So وجدت, I found. وجدتم, you found. Wow, وجد, to find. ووجدك ضالا, and he found you. ووجدك, right? وجد, to find.
How is it iPhone?
I found وجدت. وجدت. But what happens with the dal is the dal becomes a ta because it's too close. So it's وجدتم, but the dal merges with the ta and becomes a ta. وجدتم. It's almost like it becomes a ta. Yeah, so wa'ada, your Lord promised you to be truth. True.
So what is the verb here?
Wa'ada. So wa'ada and wajada.
What is one?
Wa'ada, promised. Wa'ad. Wa'ad is a promise.
So why is that a verb?
Wa'ada, he promised. And wajada, he found. Wajadtum, you found. Wa'adtum, you promised.
So Rabbukum
Is the subject. Haqa is the object. You found it true. Right? Did you find it true? Okay, Bismillah. فقالت قالت, the ta at the end means feminine. So she said. فقالت تخرج علي تخرج عليهن. Come out over them. Right? And so the Sayyidina Yusuf is so amazingly handsome that when he comes out to them, he's coming out over them like an aeroplane. Because you look at him physically, but he looks up here. He looked high. Just like Sayyidina, like the Prophet ﷺ, he wasn't the tallest of men, but he always looked taller than other people because he was so amazing. He just looked amazing. Right? So she's saying, she said to Yusuf, come out in front of these women. All these women are laughing at me that I'm in love with this guy. Say, well, fine, look at him. And then test, right? Qalat, yes. So we have a problem. I just want to share a little thing. Lots of side notes. I remember I was teaching grade 6, and there was a religious story in Arabic that I was sharing with the grade 6 students, and in it there was a very, very indirect reference to rape, right? Very, very indirect. It wasn't even there at all. Okay. One of the Arab parents at the school was like, "Oh my God, how can you show this to kids?" And I was like, "Well, if the kids don't read the Quran?" They know. We don't read the Quran. You know, so in the Quran it talks a lot about these things. So in Surah Yusuf, there's a story of there's a rape scene. A woman, and it's not just so number one, it's a rape scene. Number two, it's a scene of a woman doing that to a man and running away. So you say, oh, that's inappropriate for kids. What? So kids shouldn't memorize the Quran. They shouldn't read the Quran. It's inappropriate. It's not inappropriate. There's nothing in the Quran that's inappropriate. So some of the things they might not understand, but there's a lot of references to these kind of things in the Quran. Someone's like, oh, it's inappropriate. It's inappropriate because we don't read the Quran and we live a life where we don't get involved. So in our religious cultures that we live in, Arabs and non-Arabs, like all of those things exist in a bad world. All of those things exist in a world of sin. So whenever they come up in a religious context, it must be bad. Whereas in the Quran and the Hadith, talk about these things. Talk about these things. You read the Hadith like, oh my God, did that just happen? Right? This just happened, that just happened. It's like, oh. And so in the Quran, it's something that's dealt with in a healthy way. It's real because it's a real thing, and it's dealt with in a healthy way. But we put it in our mind that we don't read the Quran, or we don't think about what it says. And everything to do with that whole world is somewhere else and bad. Right? And who are we? We're just like the Catholics. Catholics, right? That's how they exist. Catholics like that. Anything to do with that stuff is bad. It's from the devil. Whereas that's not our deen. Our deen is the Prophet is a human being. These things are normal. Talks about it in the Quran. What if this? What if that? So all of these things in the Quran, right? And it's something that's acceptable. And it's like, why can't your son memorize Surah Yusuf, right? And then what does that tell us as well? It tells us that many people, they have an understanding that it is men who are attracted to women, but women aren't attracted to anybody, right? It's like, bro, what the Prophet referred to women as the full brother. She's the full sister. She's your full sister, meaning she's just like you. She is just like you. So what you see in women is just like what she sees in men. No difference. And so what many women, they'll be like, oh, that's inappropriate for a man to see. But a woman is totally fine. Because as if women don't see anything. Well, look at the Surah Yusuf. Here is a woman who cannot say no to this man. Or she can't accept that. It's too much of a temptation. So it's a real thing. So you're like, oh yeah. So it's a classic thing. For example, the men should get married young because it's a temptation. Women don't need to get married young. They should finish their masters first, right? When she's 35, she can get married, right? She's not like you. Like when do girls reach puberty before men? What are you talking about? So the kind of things in the boy's mind is the same things in a girl's mind. There's no difference. There's no difference. So we have to. There's a hadith this week where the Prophet said, any man who has a girl that reaches 12 years old and doesn't marry her off, and if she did something she shouldn't have done, it's his fault. That's a weird hadith, like 12, that's a weird. Like, yeah, well, because what goes through her head, it goes through his head. Same thing. And so people, what they do, they put it in somewhere else. They put it in another category in their life as if it doesn't exist. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. So we have to read the Quran and see, how does the Quran talk about this thing, not how my culture talks about these things. And subhanAllah, you will find that when you bring it up, like I was doing I was doing Surah Al-Waqi'ah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, have you seen the semen that you produce? Like, oh my God. Now, we didn't translate it like that for grade 5, but I was talking about the blessing of children and how you have children. Some people can't have children, right? And what is it like to have a children? And do you have any little brothers, sisters, etc., right? And one of the parents complained. SubhanAllah. Right? And it's like, what does it actually say? The verse says, أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ أَفَرَأَيْتُم مَا تُمْنُونَ. Have you not seen that which you ejaculate? Wow, that's a word, right? If somebody said that in front of a kid, like, oh my God, what if they said that in front of your wife? Well, in Taraweeh, what did he say? Right? It's only because we're ignorant of the Quran. It's only because we're ignorant of our own deen. Right? We're like, that's inappropriate. Everything's inappropriate in our minds. But we don't know how to put it. In our minds, it's always that's bad stuff. That's just bad. It's okay in Bollywood. You can talk about it in Bollywood. You can talk about the films. That's fine, but not in a religious setting. But in reality, the deen comes along and says, you're a human being. You make money. You eat food. You go to the bathroom. You have relations with your spouse. And these are all real things. These are all real things. I will organize them for you. The Prophet said, for example, I am to you like a father. When you go to the bathroom, do A, B, and C. You don't say, oh, that's stupid. Astaghfirullah. You see the Prophet teaching us how to clean ourselves. Saying the Prophet showed us, what do you do? 1, 2, 3. Prophet comes home. The Prophet is teaching, and he says, 1 second, guys. He leaves and goes home, and he comes back all wet. And the Prophet says, this is a reality. Human beings are human beings. They see certain things. I saw so-and-so, and the shaitan made me think of something. So when this happens to you, because you're like me, you should go home to your wife. Right? That's very real. That's a very real thing, right? Unfortunately, what happens today, a guy comes home from the office and says, oh, of course you'd be interested because you just saw this and this and this. Instead of helping the situation, she makes it worse because in her mind, it's all bad. She's not reading the hadith, not reading the Quran, right? A woman can watch whatever she wants with her friends. It's all halal, apparently. For men, they shouldn't watch this because that's inappropriate. You're the same. If I shouldn't see this, you shouldn't see that either. Right? The former Grand Mufti of Jordan, his wife asked him, say, can I have a TV? He said, no. She said, why can I have a TV? That's not haram. It's fine, we'll have a TV, but whenever a man comes on TV, you turn it off. Whenever a woman comes on TV, I'll turn it off. And we'll buy a TV then. And it's real because here's an ad, right? And you're looking at this ad, and it's like either a good-looking guy or good-looking woman. So it's either haram, it's either, like you say, Wallahi al-Azim, she's not attractive. Why do they put her on the ad then? Or the guy, have your wife say, Wallahi al-Azim, he's not attractive, right? But again, what do we say? That we don't talk about that. And so therefore it doesn't exist, and therefore it's excused, it's overlooked. The sin is happening, the zina is happening with your eyes day in, day out, and you're like, oh, why is my iman weak? Because you're committing zina day in, day out with your eyes, obviously. Men do it and women are doing it, and they're both the same. And how do we see it? Zulaykha, right? She sees, or we're like, oh, he's young. Yeah, he's young, but he's also handsome, right? That's exactly what happened. Their relationship was a relationship of mother and child. They adopted this slave. And then what happens? This boy is not a boy anymore. He is a man. So just because of the age gap, people are like, oh, it's okay. You're like a daughter to me. Or are you actually a daughter to me? No. Okay, then don't touch me. Same thing. Oh, what was your name again? Atif. Atif, I changed your diaper. Yeah. You changed my diaper 25 years ago. Okay? How old are you? 22. 22 years ago. I don't look like the same kid I used to. So you can't come and hug me or give me a grip because I'm a man now. And you see things in me that you don't see in other people. Don't pick on you by example, right? So people that, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's like, yeah, I do worry about it. Because don't ignore those things. Deal with it in a mature way. Right? Catholic, for example, the way it's like, it's like a problem in their mind. Right? For many Muslims, it's a problem in their mind. And they can't even process it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes on and processes these things in a proper way and says, no. These are your mahram, this is not your mahram, this is what you can look at, this is not what you can't look at. Here's a proper, healthy way of doing things. It's very real, right? Very real. Right? The Prophet turns up, he says, Fatima, get me some water, I need to make ghusl. Astaghfirullah, why did you say that to your daughter? That's so bad. You're not married? You're not a married person? She's married, he's married, just making ghusl is not a problem. Right? Prophet says, Allah, he's about to pray. Oh, sorry guys, I forgot, I need to go make ghusl. Astaghfirullah. What a horrible thing to say. How did he say that on the minbar? How did he say it in the masjid? I'm a human being. And the Prophet said, Innama ana bashar, I'm a human being like you, and I forgot I need to make ghusl. Okay, go make ghusl and come back. Right? So the way it is in the West, it's made disgusting and weird. Unfortunately for many Muslims, it's not disgusting, weird, it's just like confused. Because we don't read the Quran, we don't read the Hadith. And our culture is like Hindu, our culture is like Catholic, our culture is, I don't know what it is. It's weird and it's not Quran and Sunnah. Right? Okay, sorry for my many tangents. Okay, Bismillah, next verb. Ra'aynahu. Right? So ra'ayna. So ra'ayna, we saw. Ra'ayna, they feminine saw. Right? Akbarnahu, they found him amazing. Right?
The root
Is from ra'a, to see.
it's also like his eyes.
So now next time you watch Eteron, you're like, Sheikh Farid says it's haram for you to watch it. Tell your daughter and your wife to go out. Right? And she's like, okay, you can look at what's it called, Halima, Sultana, whatever. It's like, okay. But this is the real stuff, right? It's the real things. We always like to make the deen is Ramadan. The deen is Kaaba. The deen is right now. You have a phone, that is the most dangerous device you can possibly imagine. Hellfire every 2 seconds, right? And it's like, oh, it's not a big deal. How is that not a big deal? She shared an image with you, like, she said, you should go to this gym. So you saw this guy. Yeah. He's not attractive. So, no, what are you talking about? Like, so you're not like me. All this people think. People think everybody who finds the opposite sex everybody who finds the opposite sex attractive, they must be a shaitan. Like, there's something wrong with me, or you're wrong with you. Like, no, I'm a human, you're a human. Sorry, we're both humans. We're not angels. So therefore, I need to lower my gaze, you need to lower gaze. And might see something that I shouldn't see, I should look away. And if you should see something you shouldn't see, you should look away. We're all the same boat. Nobody's perfect here, right? And so it's a very real thing. We like to make the deen something else, but the deen is 95% of it our day in and day out thing, right? You know, somebody asked me and said, you should lower your gaze. I said, is there anything else that I'm worried about other than my own gaze? Like, do I wake up in the morning, Ya Allah, help me, save me from my alcohol addiction? It's like you walk out in the street, is there any other sin that's going to happen every 2 seconds other than not lowering your gaze? In the workplace, is there any other sin? What did you do? What, you stole? You got the company's code? Like, oh yeah, Allah, protect me from not seeking. Like, if you don't do your job, they're not gonna fire you. So it's kind of, is there any other sin that you're gonna come across in the workplace other than not lowering your gaze? That's what you're dealing with 90% of the time, right? And it's a very real thing, right? And may Allah give us strength of iman and do it in a proper way, right? But as opposed to, yeah, my husband, he's one of those bad people, like, you see him looking sometimes, like, really? And you don't look sometimes? But he looks because he's made out of clay, like you are made out of clay. And may Allah forgive him, he should lower his gaze. And you should lower your gaze too. And if he can't watch that, then you shouldn't be able to watch this, because it's the same thing. These are all human beings. May Allah protect us. Okay, Bismillah, so Ra'ina, they saw him, right?
So eyes in Arabic. That means,
Ayn.
yeah, so this is like.
We use the word ayana, which that means to like see with your very eyes. But we don't, otherwise you don't use that verb, you use ra'a. Absartuka, yeah. Basar is eyes. Absartuka, I saw you with my eyes as well, yeah.
I just saw similarity, even though there's separate.
But we use the word ra'i for like opinion. Like, what do you see about this? Ma ra'yuka, how do you see this thing? Right? So, or ru'ya, which is a dream. Right?
Oh, wait, so.
But this is when they saw him with their eyes, yeah.
Yeah, one more question. Then ra'aynahu,
Mhm.
the ending, the noon and.
So the noon is they, feminine plural, those group of females, and who is him.
Okay, so that's.
Yeah. Ra'aynahu. Okay, bismillah. Akbarnahu. وَقَطَّعْنَا أَيْدِيَهُنَّ, and they cut their hands. قَطَّعْنَا.
There,
Feminine plural. So hum would be masculine plural. Hunna is they cut their hands. Feminine plural.
feminine.
Mhm.
Can you make it fast?
Hum.
First tense is
قطع. Yeah. قطع. Yeah. Mhm.
na is my hand. They,
Na is they, and أيديهن their hands. قطعنا أيديهن. أيدي means hands. That's a broken plural. AD is a broken plural of yad. So yad, AD. Mhm.
How it will be past?
Hmm?
How you convert it to past tense?
قطع.
Okay.
قطع. So قطعنا.
Okay.
So I would say قطعت, قطعتي, قطعتم, قطع, قطع.
Is added with na, so it is
The noon makes it, makes the they feminine
the
plural.
dhamma sampat,
Mhm.
shukun sampat.
Mhm, mhm.
Wait, so the ending nahu, like akbar nahu, is for the
So na, feminine plural.
plural for
For,
three
for
more,
3 or more females.
and then the
So
other
if
one-
there were 3 or more females and 1 male, then it would have to change it now.
so then,
But it means
and
specifically females.
then hunna is that also three?
Yeah, but that means there. That's a different. That's not part of the verb. That's adia hunna. That's saying there, right? That's an attached pronoun for saying that it belongs to them, as opposed to an attached pronoun that is used with a verb. Okay.
So much stuff.
I don't know. But again, this stuff comes up a lot. Just exposure.
So this punya, idea punya.
Their hands. Yeah. So ad is hands. Hunna means that group of females. Mhm. Otherwise, it'd be hum. Adia. Yed. Yeah. Yedi, and then ad is the plural. Hands. Hasha lillahi ma hadha bashara. They said, no, this is impossible. This is not a human being. In hadha illa malakun kareem. This is only an angel, surely. Now, here's the problem. Here's a problem. In principle,
This one more way, right? Kulna.
yeah, وَقُلْنَا, and they said. So, qala, and you add it, becomes qulna. We're going to have a whole lesson on qala later on. Okay, so don't worry. But qulna, qaf lam, that means said. Na, they said.
Verb is what?
Is the qul.
Kulna?
Yeah, so the middle letter is actually dropped here. So it should be qaf, alif, lam. The lam alif is actually dropped here, and we're going to have a whole class on it. I don't know, in like 3 lessons, I think. On
Use hasha lillah. maybe
Hasha.
say this.
it means hasha means you say, for example, hashak means you would never do that. For example, you say let's imagine if you lied to someone and you stole their money. Hashak. Obviously, you would never do that. It means like, right? So hasha lillah means obviously Allah would never make that happen. Like Allah, God forbid. Like, all right. But God forbid, you say la samah Allah. That means may Allah not make that happen. But this is not a similar phrase. So hasha means how far-fetched is it that Allah should make this person that we can see with our eyes a human being, because he obviously isn't a human being. That's different. But you say la samah Allah, that's literally God forbid. You know, if one of us had an accident, la samah Allah, God forbid, right? You know, what would we do? La samah Allah, right? The word like samaha means like you say lo samaht, if you could permit, if you would allow it. So la samah Allah, may God not permit that, right? La samah Allah.
Wakulna is past, right?
Past tense, they said, yeah.
So wakala is
Waqala, he said.
he said.
Mhm.
So
Waqultu, I said. Mhm. So it's slightly different. Qala, you can imagine it should be qalna. So with qala, you don't do that. It has a weak letter in the middle. We're going to have a whole lesson on it, inshallah.
Wait, so there's gonna be
The whole lesson on qala
like
specifically.
if you say I said that.
Yeah, qultu. So you don't say qaltu. You say qultu, I said.
But-
Qulta. You don't say. So you'd imagine it should be qalta. You don't say qalta. You say qulta.
Qulta, you said, and qultu
Yeah.
is
Yeah. And in Masri, ult. They pronounce the qaf as a hamza. So ult. Ult. I said. So it sounds the same word, but it's a bit confusing. Okay? So the part is qulna, they said. Okay, and Khalid, how long do we have till now? 10 minutes?
8 10.
18 days. 10 is the
It's missed the prayer.
18.
So remember, we've seen this before. Ma plus illa or in plus illa means not except, meaning only. Okay, so it's a combination, like we say, La ilaha illallah, no God except Allah, meaning only God, only Allah is God. Right? So In hada illa malakun kareem. Not this except angel noble. Meaning, this is only a noble angel. Okay? So in illa plus ma or ma illa.
What is ma and la? You forgot.
So they are not.
Ma is
Yeah, and in can also mean not as well.
ma la.
La is also not, yeah. So for example, la akulu illa kada. Not I eat except this mean I only eat this. I only eat this. So with the negative, so the combination of negative plus except means only, right? So imagine again, program, you could do the thing like don't. So for example, don't. You have a database of cars. Don't bring up on the screen red cars except this entry. You could do that, right? You could type that in, or you could say only bring up this thing. So don't do it apart from this. You could do it either way. So, but in the Arabic programming is often that you often say not illa, right? Not illa.
Right? Doesn't have that illa.
There's no center. There's no
It's
in-
is not there.
yeah illa yeah. In hada illa malakun kareem.
Oh, okay, the next
Yeah.
one. Okay,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
was-
In hada illa malakun kareem. But it's very common in Arabic saying ma ra'itu illa kada. I didn't see apart from this, meaning I only saw this, right? Okay, next one, please.
So I have a
That's the last one.
random question. So this is Malakun, right? So angel, right? Angel, noble angel. But you know, like the name Malik or like the word Malik, a king. Is that
It's not related. No, we mentioned it last week or the week before that we said ma'lak is the root letters. The root letters of angel are as Hamza, Lam, Kaf. So it's originally ma'lak, and then it became mal'ak, and then the Hamza was dropped and became malak. And the plural, you see that Hamza, malaika. Yeah.
and then Malik is the,
But Malik and Malik is a totally different word.
Has a-
That's to do with milk ownership. So Malik is owner, Malik is king.
but for the letter it has a alif.
But the point is the root letters are Mim, Lam, Kaf, which is to do with ownership. And the other one is to do with Hamza, Lam, Kaf, which is means to send.
Isn't it spelled the same way? Just
It looks almost the same.
it's-
But that's because it's like a shift, right? It's like asking it's language is a bit like biology. What's the difference between like a hyena and a wolf? Are they very different? They're very different.
not too different.
Are they both canines, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? No. They're not
Wait, what?
canines. Hyena is not a canine. So a hyena looks like a wolf. It works like a wolf. You can even tame it like a dog. The problem is it stinks. Okay, but otherwise it's just like a dog. It is not a dog at all. It is not a canid. It's not in that family. It's closer to a weasel than it is to a wolf, right? But it looks similar. Similarly, these two words, they look similar, right? Tum in Arabic and tum in Urdu. Aren't they similar? They have nothing to do with each other. Nothing, they just sound the same. Like nothing to do with each other, right? But they just, so you often think, oh, these two related, there's no relationship, right? Just like, or there's a similar kind of thing that's got nothing, they just seem to appear together, but they're not at all together.
What is the verb here? Like,
There's no verb in hada illa ma'arifun kareem. No, it's just they want to complete the sentence. Okay?
so what we're trying
And so here's a good example. Here's an example. What is it? And this happened, all right? I don't want to give the whole story. It's a horrible story. But, I love, there's a female watching a sheikh on TV. It's religious. Why can't I watch him?
what is it?
Is it okay for a female to look at a sheikh on TV? This is what happened. He's a prophet. So if they weren't safe from a prophet, what about a sheikh? And then the sheikh says, sister, your husband isn't actually Muslim because he doesn't pray. People will say stuff, you heard stuff like this? Oh, he's not Muslim, he doesn't pray. She's not Muslim, she doesn't wear hijab. What is he telling her? And he's also saying, oh shit, it's also polygamy is sunnah. What is he telling her? I'm available, that's what we're saying. It's like, subhanAllah, does that happen? It happens because people think, oh, sheikh doesn't do that. Sheikh is a human like me and you. Sheikh is a human like me and you. So again, we think like Catholics. The priest doesn't do that. The Pope doesn't do that. Well, the Pope does a lot of things, and priests do a lot of things, and it happens. And so people think sheikhs don't do that. Religious people don't do that. Religious people do that. Religious people do that. So that's why the rule, we don't have a priesthood in Islam. There's no such thing as imam and this, and they don't exist. Whoever leads the prayer is the imam. Whoever judges between two people is the qadi. That's it. That's it. There's no such thing as a church and this and that. The rules apply to everybody. It's not like the sheikh can talk to this woman, but a non-person. Yeah, the brothers, you go stand over there because you shouldn't be in front of that girl, but the sheikh can talk to this girl. No, she's not.